content creators actually are kind of taking the jobs of some videographers.
Personally, I couldn't give less of a shit.
Sounds so bad. She knew her place. Welcome back, everybody, to the Gimbal Guys podcast. I am your host, Sam, with my co-host, Nick, here. We're going to be talking some fun wedding topics today, like we always do. And today we're in person. Last few episodes we were doing virtually, and it's nice to do a little in-person conversation here. Nick, tell us about where we are.
I feel like you're like talking like, oh yeah, it's nice to do these in-person things as if we're so experienced. This is our literally second time recording this podcast.
True.
We just batch record, so I just find it funny. But oh yeah, so we're in my office. It was just easier it's only like an hour away for him to come up here. So it's really not that inconvenient to do this in person all the time, but for full convenience sake, we'll do a lot of them remote, but when we feel like it or if something lines up like today, we'll hop in person. It's definitely a lot more natural. It's easier to talk to someone face to face rather than what you saw before when we were just talking to our cameras.
Yeah.
Alone.
Well, I'm actually curious because like how many people like watch podcasts? Because I only listen to them. So I'm like,
I watch.
You watch?
I do.
Okay. I'm very curious. So like if anybody has any input on any of this, just like comment it, whatever, DM us. Like,
I don't watch on YouTube. Like YouTube is surprisingly like a huge podcast listening / watching platform. A friend of mine
is free
who specializes in podcast productions says like, yeah, YouTube is right behind Spotify.
Makes sense.
But I watch on Spotify. So like the people who
that's definitely in the minority. Like nobody
totally
does that.
The few people who actually upload video podcasts to Spotify just so happen to be the most people that I watch do. And I watch those videos on Spotify.
Okay. Sometimes, you know what though? Sometimes I will go to the video version on Spotify if it's like somebody who has a guest. Sometimes I just like want to see what they look like based on their voice. But I'm like always listening because basically the only time I listen to podcasts is when I'm driving. Sometimes I'll throw it on like while I'm working, but most of the time when I'm editing, you can't really listen to anything anyway.
Yeah.
So
I mean, this might not be a good thing to say, but I watch it, quote unquote, watch while I'm driving. So like I'll have my GPS up and I'll do the picture-in-picture thing. So like the top right of my screen is a small video of the thing playing.
Yeah, I'm on CarPlay, so they make it so that like you can't see any form of media on CarPlay. It is what it is. But very curious to hear what all you guys think. If it makes a difference to you, if you like it more in person, we'll do it more in person. Yeah, I don't think anybody really cares. But yeah, how do you like the space so far? You've been in here for what, a month?
About a month, yeah. And I love it. Honestly, it's been great. Like it's pretty much finally fully done for the most part, maybe like 95, 96% done. I really just have to decorate a shelf and that's about it. But pretty much when I don't have any like in the field productions, I'm here pretty much every day, pretty much all day. Like I got in today at 7 a.m. and I'm normally like one of the first cars in the parking lot. And also one of the last to leave. Like people here,
all you doing your 9 to 5, Nick's doing a 7 to 10.
They really do 9 to 5, like 9 o'clock, like clockwork. Everyone comes in. I hear them in the halls walking. 5 o'clock hits, all the doors open and everyone leaves. And then I'm just still here. But no, I'm definitely, I feel productive. Like I've always worked in cafes and coffee shops and I've been on this schedule. I was telling my another friend this a couple of days ago. When I didn't have an office and I was working in coffee shops, which I've done for literal years, like probably 4 years I've done this. I always would get to the coffee shops right when they open at 7 a.m., which is why I still come here at 7 because that's kind of burned into me. And then I would work straight until like noon, maybe 1 o'clock. And then I would get tired and I would like go out and like go home for lunch, get lunch, do something for food, and then like take a break for like 3 hours, sometimes 4 hours, and just do nothing. And then I would get a second wind at the end of the day, like late evening, and do a little bit more work. And I found myself doing that same thing here. Like once noon and 1 o'clock hits, I like kind of have a mini crash. So I normally just come and like sit, scroll on YouTube, whatever, for like an hour
So
or
happens when
so.
you get up so dang early. You start working so early.
And yeah, I have my little break for like sometimes up to like 2 or 3 hours. I've already taken naps on this couch. And then I'll like get back up at like 4, work for another couple hours, and then head home for dinner.
Yeah, I think it's probably not. I mean, you've had a little bit stronger of a separation from like your work from your home. I mean, a little bit longer than I have. I've basically always worked out of the space in which I sleep.
Right.
So yeah, like, and now I'm working in an even smaller space in an apartment. And like yesterday, I'm tired. I'm straight up taking a nap on my bed, which is like.
Well, do you ever go like now? Do you ever go to cafes or go out? Do you want to?
Sometimes I can't.
Cafe Nero is right down the road, and they have some good spots. I worked there for an hour before I came to your house that day.
I should do it for when I have like stuff that I can do just on my laptop screen, but now I'm so glued to. I have like this big curved monitor, which Nick totally copied me with, but I can only edit on that now, and I'm like,
I haven't.
Yeah,
so everyone says that, and I haven't experienced it yet because I haven't tried yet because I haven't been to a cafe to work since I've been here.
All right.
Because I had no real reason. So I've used my monitor for the last month, and I feel like, yeah, if I do just randomly switch and go try and edit on my laptop again, it probably will feel weird. Just assuming that because that's what everyone says.
Yeah. Well, I'm using Nick's space today as my getaway. So we're gonna give it a little test, see how I like it. Maybe I'll get an office space at some point, but this is nice. I mean, you can't get it much better than this when you have like a separated space dedicated to your craft.
The key thing also for me is that it's 10 minutes away from my house.
That is so like very convenient.
If I forget something,
low barrier,
I can just run home, or like if I always just want to go home, I can just go and be there in 10 minutes.
Yeah. That is for sure nice. But enough about the office. I want to dive into today's subject, which you have no knowledge about.
So we're doing a little something different because basically like I said, it's only our second time recording, but it felt weird because we never recorded virtually before, and also it just felt a little, I don't know, unnatural, a little forced. So to force us to be not forced, we came up with the idea to have Sam come up with a topic, and I have zero clue what he's about to say or prompt me or ask me with. So everything I say will be completely genuine because I have no idea what's going on.
Yeah, and we've only talked about this a little bit before, and it's not like crazy. It's a pretty popular thing in the industry that's going on right now specifically. But I want to get your thoughts on wedding content creators. So
okay.
Just first give me like your baseline kind of like feeling about them, and then we might dive into some other specific stuff.
All right. So yeah, they definitely haven't been around for too long. Seeing as content creation is kind of new-ish, but before I worked with one, I wasn't a fan because everything I thought was just based off assumptions. I just figured, too many cooks in the kitchen type vibe. Like there would just be too many people with cameras trying to capture the same thing, that there would just physically be too many bodies. If there's already 2 photographers, 2 videographers, sometimes even a third photographer at times. So like 5 upwards of 6 people in one room at sometimes trying to get the same thing is not very feasible. So going into the first wedding we had with one, which was earlier this year, I was skeptical. I was like not sure how it was going to go. Fortunately, I was pleasantly surprised, but I also credit the actual person.
Right.
Like it's definitely going to be like a case by case. The few that we've worked with just happen to be actually very good, decent human beings. So if they're not, it's probably going to be a different experience. But for us, we were lucky in the sense that they were very like respectful of us and the photographers doing our job, and they knew that we were a priority. Like that was the main thing. Like just having them know that we were the priority and they were the ones that would be getting in our way. And she was fully understanding of that, and she knew her place. And not to say that we just shoved her out of the way.
So bad. She knew her place.
No, I basically, like, if I was done with my stuff, I would tell her, like, no, you can cut me off. Like, you can go in front of me. Like, I'm done. Like, go get whatever you need. Because at the same time, we know that she's there to do her job. So I don't want to, as much as, yes, we do take priority, I also don't want to get in their way because I know that they're also trying to do a job. So I need to respect that as well. So yeah, whenever I was done, I would move and I would tell her, like, yeah, cut me off, stand in front of me, get what you need to do. So we worked with a couple this year, and both times it was very pleasant experiences. So yeah, I would say at this point, based on the few that we've had and, like, them just being good people, I'm totally for it. The couple seem to love it. So yeah, so far so good with working with content creators, but again, it's definitely going to be case by case and, like, depending on who and how the people are.
Yeah, I'd be curious to work with a few more and see. I mean, I think the ones we've worked with so far might have all come from the same brand.
Right. They were like the same company.
Yeah. And they're great. They were great. Genuinely great people.
And that just happened to be a coincidence.
Yeah. So I'd be curious to, like, work with a few others to see if that's, I think I had run into another content creator that was there for, like, half of the day before when I was, like, second shooting. And she didn't, like, even stay for the reception. She basically got, like, some details of the setup for the reception and then was, like, done for the rest of the day. So I wonder if some people are investing in kind of like a part-time content creator thing. But I guess some people are classifying as a trend. And do you think that content creators, do you think it's just a trend, or do you think they're here to stay? How do you see it kind of, like, moving in the industry going forward?
I do think it's a trend. Like,
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't think it's here to stay. I actually feel like it's kind of late. Like, I'm surprised it didn't happen sooner. And, like, maybe it did, and maybe just we weren't totally fully aware of it. But now it's probably at its highest it's ever been. But I'm just saying I'm surprised that it wasn't, like, at its highest point in, like, 2018, 2019, something like that. Because I feel like the golden age of, like, content creators were, like, the late 2010s, and as we enter now the mid to late 2020s, it's like, I don't know, I feel like it's not going to last because I'm not saying I think content creation is going to die, but I don't think that it's going to be, I guess, valued in the long term like wedding photography and wedding videography has become. Like, wedding photography has always been the thing. And then it took a little while for wedding videography to catch up, and it's still not even, like, on par yet.
Right.
In our opinion, it should be, but it's still industry wide. It's not. It still comes second to photography. And then I just think the amount of time that it's going to take, if at all, for content creation to catch up to those two, by the time it does that, it's going to die out.
Interesting. I almost have a different take, but not really. I think, and this almost goes into another thing. I think it's, some people are like, oh yeah, it's a third option.
I don't see it as a third option.
Like, basically you're hiring photography, videography, and content creation. And there's a lot of videographers that are upset with content creators because they think they're taking their jobs. And I think content creators actually are kind of taking the jobs of some videographers. I would say some of the lower end videographers that are kind of in the same price point that a content creator would be in. And the thing with that is they're not really, I guess, those videographers aren't really differentiating in that way. So I think a lot of people are just, if they don't have the budget to spend on kind of like a cinematic storytelling videographer, they'll just go with a content creator because they're like, I just care about the raw moments being captured and nothing else. Versus somebody might hire us, or like they might call them a wedding cinematographer for the sense of you get a cohesive story at the end of the day. And I think content creators are kind of pushing out some of the, maybe even the older style videographers who aren't even creating highlight films, just the ones who are kind of like capturing the formalities and stuff. Because some content creators, we've been asked before, like if we're capturing speeches and stuff, and we capture all those formalities in full, but some content creators are recording the whole thing, which is interesting. And I've also seen, my theory is that the industry is kind of going in two different directions at the same time. I think the smaller weddings are getting smaller and the bigger weddings are getting bigger, and kind of like that in between market is sort of like going away. Because I think a lot of people are waking up to the fact that they can be more intentional with their wedding planning. So the people that don't want like the traditional wedding in a sense are opting for smaller celebrations, elopements, getting crafty with certain things. And some of those people might just hire a content creator because they don't really value essentially what some of the other videographers would do. And then the bigger weddings are getting bigger, like all the magazine weddings, all the huge celebrations. Those people are also knowing like, hey, I can do whatever I want for my wedding, so I'm gonna, do everything to the nines. At least that's what I'm seeing. I don't know if you feel the same way, but
after hearing you say that, I feel like I do agree with that. I can see that happening as well, like the bigger getting bigger, smaller getting smaller type thing. And yeah, I guess I do agree that the content creators are probably, potentially taking the jobs of those smaller videographers. But I mean, like you said, it's due to them not differentiating themselves. So like there are definitely things that those videographers could do to avoid that from happening. Yeah. But if that happens to be your style, then it's kind of unfortunate.
Yeah. If you feel threatened by a content creator, I mean, you shouldn't.
You really shouldn't.
You really shouldn't.
Like if you're threatened by someone holding their phone up next to you, that's a you problem.
Yeah. And it's like, us personally, if somebody were to hire a content creator, if they were somehow between us and a content creator, they wouldn't be like, we wouldn't feel threatened by the content creator. It's essentially just what that person wants. You would be between those two different options because you're deciding between two different things that you want. Do you want something that's a little bit more authentic? Or, sorry, that's the wrong word. It's not more authentic. It's more user-friendly, little easier to get to content. Because the thing with them, too, is you get a lot of fast turnaround where with us, it takes us a while to put something together that's cohesive.
It's like insanely fast. They just dump their phones that night.
You get a Google Drive folder link the next morning. It's like, here you go. And you can look through all those things on your honeymoon, which is great.
So they have us beat there, and they will always have us beat there.
Yeah.
But I don't value that as highly as our other things that we can give. Like a day, 24-hour turnaround is just not going to be possible for the film that we produce. Right. And I'm fine with that. Like,
yeah, because our end product takes significant amount of time to get through, like sorting through all the best moments of the day, figuring out which of those moments tie into each other to tell a cohesive story, because we're almost creating like mini movies, and not to like hype ourselves up, but like that's what we're doing. We're creating a movie like from the day that's telling a story, not just about the day, but kind of as the couple in general too. And that's something they can look back on for generations. And, we also have those kind of like formalities in full too. If they just want to go back, watch the ceremony, if they want to go back, look at all of the speeches in full, they can do that. So it's just a different product. And there's I've heard stories of videographers, and photographers a little less, but I think videographers feel more threatened by content creators. There's some videographers who put it in their contract. It's like, you cannot hire a content creator.
I don't care. I would never care enough to add that as a clause in the contract.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
Unless something goes like horribly wrong one day, and like, I'm never working with a content creator again, which I highly doubt will ever happen. Mm-hmm. I'm totally fine with them being there.
Because we do have something in our contracts called exclusivity, which basically just means don't hire another videographer on the day. It's like, right. You just hire us.
In our heads, like I can definitely differentiate another videographer versus a content
different
creator.
Medium.
It is different.
It's like I said, it's a different product.
Not a breach of contract.
Yeah. So there's a lot of people who feel threatened in that way. There's a lot of kind of like larger videography and photography studios that are trying to bring content creation, or some videographers are trying to offer content creation in their packages, which I don't know. Is that something yeah.
I was going to say, I relate that to how videographers implement Super 8. And that's the direction I was about to go in. Like, I think if done right, it probably could work.
Yeah.
But that's definitely for, like you said, like bigger actual, like, production teams. Whereas we're literally two people who have this more like luxury brand. And like, I feel like we appear larger than we are, which is good. That's what we kind of want to do. But at the end of the day, it's just us. So like
for right now,
so we're not going to have like a whole team of people that, oh, can you be the content creator for the day? Like same with like Super 8, like we're not well versed in that. So like we don't offer things like that. But I do think that if done right, the actual videographers of the day could potentially offer that as well, in the same sense of like people offering the Super 8 stuff. So it could work.
Yeah, because then it gets interesting too, because I think every vendor at some point whips out their phone to grab a shot of ceremony or some sort of setup.
Sure.
Like
I do it all the time.
Yeah. And so I mean,
unplugged ceremonies don't apply to me.
Yeah, Fishing makes an announcement. Nick does not care. That poses an interesting question from the content creator side of things. I mean, we're not doing much with our phones, but there's a lot of
us doing that breaches their contract.
Yeah, because I think I
Interesting.
I think I see photographers using their phones more because they probably have a little bit more time after getting their shots.
I've seen photographers who have like an arm clamped to their camera with their phone.
Yeah.
So like they are fully doing BTS all day.
So does that breach the content creators contract when all these other vendors are? I mean, my take would be not unless you're delivering those things to the couple. If you're just getting behind the scenes of your stuff to put on your social medias, I guess it doesn't make a difference.
I agree with that. I don't think it does. Because like,
I see content creators getting pissed though.
I mean, I have no intention of sending anything I film on my phone to the couple ever.
Yeah.
That's just for me. That's for our social media, for our Instagram stories, really. That's the only reason I film on my phone.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who kind of like blur the lines in that way, because I've heard stories of videographers giving Polaroids to the couple and the photographers are upset with that. And they're saying like, well, if I was the photographer and I shot a Super 8 thing and gave that to the couple, it's kind of like the same thing.
Is it though? Like, okay, a Polaroid.
Yeah.
Like, do you think a simple, like say at the end of the night, what if it's a Polaroid of us? What if we're like, oh, can we get like a selfie Polaroid? Is that okay?
That's okay. I think that's okay. But I also see where the photographer's coming from, because it's like, where's the line of the medium that you do? Like, we're not going to snap photos on our cameras. Like, the most we'll do is grab a screen grab for like the thumbnail of a film or something like that.
Sure.
But we're not delivering photos to the couple. I've seen photographers too, like they're taking a photo and they just press record on their cameras, because their cameras do video as well. I've seen some of them doing that, and like, is that okay? Like,
I don't know.
It's tough.
Well, to be totally honest, okay or not, personally, I couldn't give less of a shit. Unless I know for a fact that they are trying to do it in spite of us, like something against us, then I would care. But if they're literally just doing it just because, I'm like, do what you want. I'm fine with that. Like, you want to take a video of this? Go for it.
Yeah.
As long as they're not trying to like secretly edit something better than we do and deliver it.
Don't deliver it to the couple. I mean, there's also a thing for it. Like, if you post it on social media and tag the couple, it's like kind of delivering it to them. And there's certain moments, like, we want couples to kind of have that wow factor. So if the photographer had kind of like just pressed record on their camera for something, like the groom's reaction as his bride's walking down the aisle, and they press record on that and they post it to social media the next day, like, that moment is almost kind of like lost in our films. So I kind of get it from that regard.
like that. That is true.
Yeah. So I guess moral of the story is stay in your lane, bro.
That's yeah, pretty much. I mean,
Just don't play with fire. It's like stick to what you're good at.
Yeah.
If there's a content creator on the day, it's like if you're going to take iPhone BTS, that's probably fine. Just kind of just take BTS of your stuff.
Which is all I ever do anyway.
Yeah. There's been, we've seen people like floral designers whipping out their stuff and
Oh my God,
know.
don't even get me started on
Yeah.
the last wedding with the freaking florist, man.
yeah, the florist at one of the weddings we went to or we shot recently had a full on DSLR,
She had a
setup.
DSLR, she had a Sony mirrorless camera and was
Yeah.
just snapping pics all over the place, getting in our way.
The-
in the aisle during the
The
ceremony.
florist went up right behind Nick during the aisle towards the end of the ceremony for like the first kiss. And luckily she wasn't using her camera for that. So she wasn't like in the photographer's way per se.
Oh wait, she was
had her-
behind us and like leading them out.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't even know
I don't know
that.
if she stayed that long, but definitely like before, because Nick's in the aisle, right? And I'm like signaling, or I just like hit him on the headset. I'm like, hey, watch behind you. She's like breathing on your neck.
I didn't feel her at all, so I'm glad. Well, maybe I'm not glad. Maybe I wish I ran into her, push her over. Me
Yeah.
and Yi, just tackle her.
There's just stay in your lane essentially is the moral of that there. And
Yeah.
I guess kind of like wrap it all up with content creators. I think they're a third option for the, like I was saying, the bigger ceremonies, the bigger weddings. They're probably a third option. I think a lot of the bigger weddings are having all three of those vendors there: photography, videography,
yeah.
content creation, because they want all the full shebang. And I think honestly, for some of like the super small weddings, they're a second option, like leaving out videographers. I think for some of the smaller weddings, I mean, some people they'll probably just be more intentional with which vendor they hire for that situation. I think photography just historically has and always will come first. And I think there is a debate for those people with kind of like the smaller budgets. Which do they go for? Do they hire a video team? Do they hire a content creator? And I mean, kind of is just personal preference. I would love to say like videography is the answer and you should just go with somebody who can tell a cinematic story, but some people just don't value that as much as we do, you know?
Yeah, no, I can agree with that. I think I said earlier that I didn't think it was a replacement, or I didn't think it was a third option. I meant didn't think it was a replacement, but I do think it could be a replacement for the smaller ones.
Yeah.
Just definitely not for the bigger ones.
Yeah, and I will gladly. I think a lot of people try to beat around the bush and say like, oh yeah, no, it will always be a third option to videography and photography, and it's like no, like
It has the potential to be a replacement.
yeah,
Yes.
in some scenarios. Do we think it will stay around long term? I mean, you said no, but
Well, yeah,
I
what do you think?
think maybe it just kind of depends on what happens with phones. I guess in the future we have no idea where it's going. This has only been a thing in the past like, you know, year or two, not basically a year. It's only been a thing. 2023 is when we kind of like first heard about content creators happening.
I feel like they were probably around before that though. Like I said,
Yeah,
I just don't think they were
probably.
like they're at their peak right now in terms of the highest they've ever been. But they've probably been around since the late 2010s.
yeah, so it's
just
kind of
very
just like
sporadically.
what ends up happening with cell phone technology in the future is kind of
Yeah.
what will happen with content creators. And I mean, there's just a lot going on and a lot changing, and you never really do know what's going to happen. I think the way I see it now, I think it's probably going to stick around because it kind of followed the trend. It followed the trend of businesses. Businesses wanted more UGC content with the rise of TikTok and Instagram Reels and short form video. And after, you know, larger businesses, some of them aren't using professional content as much. And after that trend kind of started, more and more people started just using their phones to post content. And I think that's where content creation was born from.
I
Will
think it
that
also
be a trend? Like,
I think it's also gonna like depend on what the future generations are like. I think it's also a product of Gen Z. and like the Gen Z people also carried the UGC on like the business stuff.
True.
Because of their lack of attention span, and they're gravitating towards this like phone content. Definitely plays into the part of here, these content creators at weddings. Whether or not the generations after them are going to continue to prefer this style, who knows? Yeah.
It's going to be interesting to see for sure. And I mean, another thing that just was brought to my mind too is like as a vendor, you should just be welcoming these people. It's just another vendor on the team doing their job. You are doing your job. You should work with these people collaboratively, no matter if you're a videographer, photographer. Obviously, if somebody's getting in your way, you just need to have that sort of conversation with them. Yeah, you need to have that conversation with them. But I mean, we had a couple ask us recently. They talked to us before they had hired a photographer, and they asked us like, "What do you
need in terms of how to work together?"
And I'm like, I would like to say we're pretty easygoing. Like, as long as they just don't get in our way, we all give each other our space. We're all doing a job. We all have the same common goal of making the couple happy. Like, I think it's
really not that hard.
Yeah. If you're a vendor, just be a team player. Just welcome content creators with open arms. Network with them. It's another networking opportunity. Get referrals from them because they want to work on the same weddings you're working on, and vice versa. So right now they're here to stay. We love the content creators we've worked with. If our opinion changes, we'll let everybody know.
Yeah.
But yeah. Any other closing thoughts? I think we kind of wrapped it up.
No, that's all I got. Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Well, that does it for today's episode. If you guys enjoyed, give us a 5-star review on Spotify, give us a like on YouTube, follow us on Instagram at SeaMount Weddings, and subscribe and follow along wherever you get your podcasts.
I will say this right now that us being in person, this episode was miles better than our virtual 100%. Ones already. I can tell.
Not talking to myself like a crazy person, but
so hopefully that translated. But that's all. Bye.
See ya.